What is up? It is Maximus MMA bringing you my picks and predictions for UFC Fight Night. Robocop taking on Fluffy Hernandez here. This was actually in my top 5 fights I must see before the end of 2026, so super excited for the main event. Obviously, if you saw the thumbnail, you probably know who I'm rocking with, but we'll get to that in a bit. This card is going down in California, which is awesome. We needed this fight in front of a crowd, as I said in that video. Put in the description below. And yeah, I mean, the Apex is popping off a little bit now. And speaking of popping off, my Cubs, yeah, we're about to sweep the White Sox today. So without further ado, let's just work our way from the bottom and go up the card. Okay, so look, I'm going to keep it a buck. Okay, the first fight of the night, Chanel Dyer taking on Elise Reed. Look, Elise Reed, she's got absolutely no consequence on her strikes. Chanel Dyer wins this fight via being more manly. I don't need to bore y'all to death with the women's MMA opener. Come on, brother. Up next, we've got Jackson McVeigh taking on Wes Schultz, party time. Now look, Wes Schultz against a guy who's black, okay, he's sleepy time, but he is taking on Jackson McVeigh here in a rematch where Wes Schultz did win, I believe, in the amateurs via early submission, so kind of an interesting one. And the only reason why I make that joke about black people with Wes Schultz is that the thing I hate about Wes Schultz is that in his 2 losses in the UFC promotion, even though one of them was Contender Series, as I highlight right now, he just looked so scared of Mansour Abdul-Malik. I mean, he looked terrified. He looked terrified. And then he gets a win, you know, on a regional scene, who cares? And then he gets kind of a comeback win where he was sort of playing guard and eventually won on the Contender Series. Then he comes into the UFC and they said, okay, you didn't want to get hit by a Mansour. Let's see you take a punch from Damian Pinas, okay? Who might be the hardest hitter in 185. Everybody's hyping him up that way, at least, which we'll get to that. I think it's Robocop, but point is, he just looked terrible, and then he got a win, but against really low competition. It is weird, because Jackson McVeigh is really not that good, but I do kind of have a feeling that Jackson McVeigh is longer for the UFC than Wes Schultz. I like Jackson McVeigh striking a lot better in this fight, and I like his will to win. I mean, now the only thing that I hate about this is that he's lost to Zach Reese, and I'm very low on Zach Reese. I don't think Zach Reese is good at all. So that is the red flag here to me. This is just a low level middleweight fight. But for sake of a pick, I'm going to pick Jackson McVeigh just because I think that he's less likely to just like shell up and get TKO'd. But this fight to me is a coin flip. Looks like a lot of you are, they see what I'm saying with Wes Schultz. We're like, if he starts getting actually beat up, he's quitting. So, who knows? But is Jackson McVeigh like an ass beater? Not really. So, it's anybody's call there. But I'm going with McVeigh. Then actually a fight that's pretty interesting. We've got Gage Young, who at this point is a very young UFC veteran, taking on Stan Dorsanaville in his UFC debut. Only 5 pro fights for Stan, and as you can see, they're essentially the same age, with Stan being 2 months the elder. G Money, on the other hand, has been in the UFC for a little bit. Obviously, on the Contender Series, he fought Killian Salkild, who, I mean, how can you fault him on that, right? Killian Salkild has proven to be the real deal, and he had a pretty close fight with him. In a fight that he lost, but I think it was like 29-28. It was pretty back and forth. I actually watched that fight live. And then he went back to the regional scene. He did it right. He got a win, right? Hey, don't just get fed to the wolves, man. Go back on the regional scene, beat up a 6-4 guy, get your confidence up. Then come back and look, he lost to Evan Elder. Not the greatest loss in the world, okay? But you're thinking, okay, maybe Gage Young isn't UFC level. But then he goes out there and beats Miesha Tate, who's pretty mid, and then he beats Thiago Moises, who at this point of his career, to me, is absolutely terrible. And the fact that he went to like a split decision with Thiago Moises is actually why I'm going to pick Stan here. I like the nickname. I like the drill. He's from Florida, and he's got really nice stand-up. I like the finishing ability from Stan, too. I mean, yes, he's finishing guys that are not UFC level, but I like the finishing ability here because I don't really see Gage Young as a finisher. I mean, maybe he was getting finishes on the regional scene. Yeah, he was. But when he's come to the UFC and fought guys that are going to give him some sort of pushback, I don't know. To me, it just doesn't seem that dangerous. So yeah, I'm going to go with Stan here, I think, because he's a little bit of a better athlete. And Gage Young, he's like such an all-rounder, but we're talking about an all-arounder at like the 60th ranked of lightweight. I mean, like, it's not like you're like, oh, he's an all-rounder, but he's a top 15 guy. Like, is Gage Young ever going to be top 15? Maybe. I mean, he's 26, but I'm just not super impressed with him. So, yes, you do have to like the UFC experience over a guy with only 5 pro fights. I'm just going to pick the guy that I think is more naturally gifted in Stan. Probably to win by KO, to be honest. And then we've got what's supposed to be a lamb to slaughter. We got Marcio Barbosa taking on Ryan Kuse or Ryan Kus. Not exactly sure how you pronounce that. Look, as you can see, Barbosa is a minus 900 favorite, and that is not because he's the bigger man. It's not because he has a longer reach. It's because when he hits people, they've been getting knocked out bad. And yeah, he did it to Bazooka and then Demon Wilson on a Contender Series. Before that, obviously, against the lower level guys in LFA, he was absolutely killing them. Ryan Coos kind of like a victim on the feet, man. Like, Cameron Smotherman lost, doesn't look that good right now. And yeah, man, like he's decent on the ground, but Barbosa should be powerful enough to work up if he somehow does get taken down. Give me Barbosa by KO simply because the striking advantage should just be so vast that there's really no reason to waste too much time on this. And then we've got Nazrat Hakpras taking on Chris Padilla. This is definitely going to be like one of like the gamblers fights of the week, simply because it's pretty close money pick, and Chris Padilla has a lot of like hardcore fans in MMA space. He's a very come forward striker. He's a guy who he's going to get in your face. He's pretty well rounded, has some pop, but isn't necessarily known as like a one shot KO guy. But he does start to build into fights, and you saw that against Ismail Bonfim, and then also against Medeiros, where he got a draw in that fight. But I believe he actually won that fight. From what I remember, it was kind of like a controversial scorecard. There were like points taken away, right? Really weird. So yeah, Chris Padilla's body of work in UFC, he is undefeated if you don't count the draw here, which technically isn't a defeat, but you guys get what I'm saying. All wins. You gotta like his body of work. And Nasrat Hakpras is a guy who like he doesn't really like blow you away, but he's decent. And like we just saw him get blown away by Killian Salkiel via a vicious head kick. He's had 9 months off, so I'm not super worried about the chin. However, that was one of those head kicks where you know that it's going to be in the back of Nasrat's mind when he makes the walk. Now, granted, is Chris Padilla really a one-shot puncher? No, I just said he's not. But it does worry me for Nasrat if he does not get off to a really good start in this fight, because Chris Padilla has shown us at this level so far, and like his unranked lightweight, range, he does a really good job of building into fights and starting to take over as they go on with his cardio and just overwhelming pressure and just volume of strikes and willingness to get into the fire. So I'm going to take the guy that I know that, when he gets in the fire, he gets cooking. And Hawkprost here, he might melt. So give me the taco Chris Padilla to win this fight, probably by decision. But method, not too sure. Because I could see a later stage knockout, but I'm going to trust in Hawkprost recovering with the chin and also being classy enough to hear the final bell. Then we've got Kennedy and Jeshku taking on Shamil Gaziev. Look, this is going to be a blob heavyweight fight, right? We have the blob himself, Shamil Gaziev. I was going to say Globiev, but it just didn't come out. And then, he got absolutely killed by Brando Pericic in his last fight, who Pericic I'm like so high on. So I don't really fault him too much. And obviously Waldo just kind of outclassed him. So like, look, Gaziev's shown us like he's one of those guys where he's going to float around 15 or so at heavyweight. And that's essentially what he's defending here, right? Can he earn the right to be like a mainstay UFC gatekeeper for the next couple years? I mean, he's 36 and a half. He's heavyweight, so, you can fight for another 4 years or so. But Kennedy Nzechukwu is already 34, and honestly, like, to me, he has like one good win in his entire career. Like, his only win that's been good is Carlos Ulberg, which obviously that's a hell of a win, saying that Carlos Ulberg is the UFC light heavyweight champion as of the recording of this video. But that was Carlos Ulberg 5 years ago in a different weight class in Ulberg's fourth fight, and now he's 14-1. See, it's one of those where it was a good win, but Ulberg wasn't the same, man. He'd come for kickboxing. He wasn't seasoned in MMA like he is now. And then since then, he lost to OSP. Old OSP is a huge favorite. He beat the fattest heavyweight known to man. He beat the worst heavyweight known to man in Lucas Brzeski. He got Walter Walker heel hooked like every fat blob does at heavyweight. And then he went to a life and death draw against Marcus Buchecha. I don't know, man. I know a lot of people are kind of saying, oh, Kennedy's going to win this one. I'm going to pick the meme and Shamil Gaziev only because, I don't know, bro. Both these guys, they haven't beat anybody really good outside of that Ulberg win. And I just don't, I don't dude, both these guys suck, man. I don't know. Shamil Gaziev to win by decision. For some reason, I think this fight will go to decision now. I see a lot of people are picking finish on both sides, but dude, this just screams like blob heavyweight where like they're both gassed out after like a minute and a half and they're just like up against a cage just doing nothing. And then you'll get like the hardcores that are like, bro, that's entertaining, bro. Like, if you don't like that, go watch WWE. Shut up. You see all that about the Makachev stuff this last week, and all these Muslim fans like, bro, if you don't like that, bro, that's high level stuff, bro. That's high level stuff. Like, bro, nobody wants to see 24 significant strikes in a 25-minute fight. Come on. Like, it's just so cringe. But anyways, total side note. Let me knock it off on that. But yeah, give me Shamil Gaziev. But next, we've got Jamal Emmers, an old Jamal Emmers, against Larian Douglas. Now, is he actually old? No, he's 37, but I just read pretty boy. I'm thinking he ain't a boy. He's 37. Look, he's been around a long time. And Jamal Emmers is decent, right? He's all right. He's all right. And he most recently beat Hyder Amil, who unfortunately has been on a little bit of a rough streak. And I'm a fan of Hyder. That's why I worded it that way. So, yeah, man. Like, not the best win. Larian Douglas, on the other hand, is being touted as if he's some world beater. I don't really get it. He's 14-5. Like, yes, the eye test looks good recently, but this is a guy who is losing routinely on the regional scene. And yeah, I lost to a guy like Cheppy Mariscal, who's a UFC level guy, a good UFC fighter on the regional scene. But like, who the hell are these other guys, bro? Like, call me a cat. Yeah, who is this brother? Like, who is that guy? You know what I'm saying? Like, and yeah, this guy just lost to Brito. Okay, yeah. But anyways, you get what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. It's just, I just don't get how a guy can have 5 losses and 14 wins, and people are acting like he's just like, oh, he's the hardest hitter in the damn UFC, pound for pound. He's such a world beater. Like, I'm not saying I think Jamal Emmers beats him, but this is certainly a guy to fade probably in the future. He's a little reckless, but I mean, he's a good fighter. So we'll go with Larian Douglas, probably by KO, but again, whenever you get something like this, 95% of the people on a 14-5 guy against a UFC vet, I'm tentative, man. I'm tentative. Then we've got a total squash match. We've got Anthony Wint against Terrence Chapman. Look, I'm going to be honest, Terrence. I don't think you have the answer to this absolute behemoth of a human being. I mean, yeah, he's only 5'11", right? Only. He's not super tall, but bro, he is a brick shithouse, dude. Like, Anthony Wint just looks humongous. No diddy. Like, he is a former football player. I don't know if he went into the NFL, but I know he played for FIU. Shout out Florida International. Yeah, so, you know, he has a real athletic background is really what I'm getting at. Terrence Chapman, bro, I mean, look at his arms. His triceps are sagging more than his biceps when he holds out his arms like that. So just based off of the fact that his triceps are sagging more than his biceps even exist, and Anthony Wint's traps are probably bigger than Terrence Chapman's biceps when he flexes, bro. Like, I get it, muscles don't win fights, but in this case, bro, we're just gonna say it wins this fight, right? Give me Anthony Wint probably to win in the first 2.5 minutes via like power bomb into ground and pound. Then we've got another girl fight. Look, all I know about this fight is like Hailey Chavez. She went to a split decision on the Contender Series and against Inesi Dubin. Carly Judice has been winning relatively easily against, albeit not that great of competition in the UFC. I just know that Carly Judice is the clear A side here, and the UFC wants her to win. I think they're going to give her a matchup they think she can win. Give me Carly Judice to win by decision. Then we've got an underrated fight here, and honestly, it's not underrated because anybody that's been watching UFC for the past year, right? I was checking how long it's been since he fought Stevens. Knows that Mason Jones is must-see TV. Look, Mason Jones, he had a stint in the UFC. It didn't go too well. Then he came back, and the UFC said, hey, go beat up an old man, Jeremy Stevens, who hasn't trained wrestling in the last 10 years because he's busy bare-knuckle boxing. And good for Jeremy Stevens, right? I mean, hell of a record, 29-21, goodness. But, I mean, anyway, so he wins that fight, and then he KOs Balaji Oki in a war, and then he gets into a war with Axel Solo, who I'm high on, and actually was the lock of the week about 3 weeks ago when he beat Bonfim. So, you know, I tend to know these guys, right? And, yeah, man, Markel Medeiros, of course, he's coming off that draw with Curtis Padilla in a fight that he probably lost. And before that, you know, he's gotten some decent wins. I mean, Contender Series win, Quinones, who's mid, Hubbard is split, and Choinsky, look, I'm just going to keep this one a buck. Markel Medeiros, he gets better every fight. He's a pretty good striker. He's well-rounded. I don't really expect him to get held down for extended periods. But Mason Jones should have a little bit of a grappling advantage. And if you're going to a split decision with Austin Hubbard, I've got to pick a guy like Mason Jones when he's on such a hot streak. He's 18-2. It just seems like Markel Medeiros can wilt to the pressure, and we saw that a little bit against Chris Padilla. But I think that Mason Jones brings a heightened level of danger that Chris Padilla just does not. So even though I think Chris Padilla is good, I think that Mason Jones, I mean, that would be a hell of a fight. So give me Mason Jones. Let's focus on this matchup. Mason Jones to win this fight, probably by decision, because I think Medeiros is class, and I think that he probably will hear the final bell. But you never know. Look, Mason Jones is going to cause chaos, and he's live to get dropped here. So Mason Jones, even though he goes through the fire and he's been winning recently, he can take damage. So eventually he's not going to get up one of these times. Do I think that Medeiros is the guy to do it? Likely not, because Medeiros isn't really finishing too many guys at the UFC level. Actually, nobody, so. And then we've got two bums with Rainier DeRitter taking on Roman Dolidze. Look, Rainier DeRitter's not a bum. I shouldn't have said that. But he's looked like a bum in his last two fights. I mean, I picked him to lose against Brendan Allen when Brendan Allen was like a huge underdog in that fight. So that's a little flex for me. But yeah, man, I don't know. Like, he had so much hype after he beat Bo Nickel. And that was justified. Like, Bo Nickel, obviously one of the most hyped prospects. The way he beat him with that knee to the body, this big dogdom. Yeah, man, and he had a close fight with Robert Whitaker where he started to fade, but it was a good fight, and I thought he won. And then he lost to Kyle Baralho after the Brendan Allen embarrassment where he quit on the stool. Yeah, man, I mean, Kyle Baralho is the kind of guy that's going to beat Rainier DeRitter, right? He's going to be a little bit too fast, a little bit too technical, a little bit too talented, well-rounded. Rainier DeRitter's going to lose to those guys that are just moving in 1x speed again, 1.5 speed against him, sorry. Roman Dolidze, on the other hand, is moving in 0.5 speed. He's the slowest guy I've ever seen in the UFC. I mean, he's one of them, right? He's one of them. He's not the slowest. We'll see. He's probably even slower now. He's 38, which isn't that old, but he's been in wars, man. And look, I knew that Roman Dolidze was terrible after my boy Nasruddin Imavov absolutely destroyed him. And you could be like, well, he got 3 wins after that. Bro, these were fluky, bro. And you got to look at this. Okay, Anthony, I'm attacking my family Smith. Kevin Holland, he was just so much bigger then. It was just kind of a dumb matchup before Kevin Holland decided, okay, let me go back down to welterweight because he has no business being at middleweight. And then Marvin Vettori, who's a freaking blockhead, dude. And then he actually gets destroyed by Fluffy, and then CLD should have KO'd him, but he didn't, which was disappointing for CLD. And for many reasons, I don't even get into that because I'll start ranting. But I was like, dude, Roman Dolidze, like, sure, he's decent on the ground. Rainier DeRitter's kind of known for being really good on the ground. He's honestly most known for being good in the clinch. I just struggle to see where Roman Dolidze wins this fight. Unless there's somehow a situation where Roman Dolidze falls on top of Rainier DeRitter and Rainier DeRitter starts to like get PTSD mid-fight of Brendan Allen and Roman Dolidze actually decides to throw ground and pound. I just don't trust. I mean, how is Roman going to get to a dominant position in this fight? I just don't know. I just don't see. I don't see how it's going to happen unless Rainier DeRitter does something so stupid. And even then, is Roman Dolidze just going to pound his face in and just end the fight? Probably not. So I don't know. As long as Rainier DeRitter's coming into this fight with a clear head and his cardio is in shape, he should win this fight like 9 out of 10 times. So give me Rainier DeRitter to win this fight. Probably by sub, because I think that Roman Dolidze is due to be finished again, man. He's too slow. Too slow. Then we've got a really good co-main. Well, I shouldn't say really good, but an interesting fight with Sergey Spivak taking on Vitor Petrino. Now, look, if you just looked at both of these guys, right, you'd think, damn, Petrino's probably going to beat his ass. Right, Petrino actually is the favor here. Bro, I'm picking Spivak to win this fight. I mean, if you look at Vitor Petrino in the UFC, obviously he looks like a beast. He's a decent fighter. But, of course, when he came into the UFC, Contender Series beat up Bellotto, who's a bum. Turkali, who sucks. Procmio, who is out of the UFC, right? Yeah. Losing on the regional scene. Tyson Pedro, who's not good, right? Who's lost how many fights in a row now? Yeah, he's over in PFL getting destroyed. Then he loses to Anthony Smith, fetal position Smith. Then he gets killed by Justin Jacoby in a fight that he was winning the first 2 rounds, but then he just got creased in his light heavyweight. Yeah, light heavyweight that fight was. And then he goes up to heavyweight, and he's rattled off 3 straight wins against Austin Lane, who's a bum, Thomas the Train Peterson, who's a bum, who can only beat other fat guys, and Petrino, as you can see, is not a fat guy. And then he beat Steven Asplund, which is a decent win, because Asplund looks all right. And Asplin's fun. But it wasn't a fight that was like a super clean win. Like, it was back and forth, and Asplund kind of tuned him up a little bit on the feet in moments. Spivak's probably a better boxer at this stage of his career than Asplund. And Spivak is tricky on the ground, bro, with submissions too. I don't know. I just think on the feet, I think Spivak is going to be the more active guy. I think that he's going to land more often. Unless Petrino lands a bomb, I mean, is Petrino going to just bully Spivak to the ground and ground and pound him? I don't really think so. I mean, the danger here for Spivak is going to be in the clinch, but you would think that he knows that. And I like the way that he fought against D'Elia, where D'Elia had a lot of hype, but he was moving around well, and you could be like, yeah, the Jelena Almeida loss is kind of a red flag. Let's look past that, bro. If you look past that, his only losses in the UFC, to my understanding, are Tom Aspinall, current champ, Cyril Gane, current interim champ, Jelena Almeida, who at the time was doing really well, now kicked out of the UFC for being boring, and then Waldo Cortez Acosta, who's ranked like number 5 in a close fight. Give me Spivak to win this fight, man. Spivak wins by decision. I think it's going to look similar to the D'Elia fight. I think he's going to be a little bit faster on the feet, and I think he's going to know how at this stage of his career. He's only 31 and a half. This is really a big spot for Spivak, because if he wins, he's got a real opportunity to fight for a top 5 ranking at the beginning of next year. If he loses, he's like eternal heavyweight gatekeeper, bro, and you're going to be getting these guys like Anthony Wint and all these guys coming up, man. Like, you really want to fight those guys, bro, for, basically nothing? Like, no real stakes? No, bro. He's got to win this fight. I think he will. I think he's going to beat Vitor Petrino. I could see a KO, but I'm going to pick decision. All right, and for the last fight of the card, we've got Anthony Fluffy Hernandez taking on Gregory Robocop Rodrigues, my boy Robocop. This is it, my boy. This is it, my brother. He's 34 and a half, okay? And we all wanted him to viciously KO Jared Cannonier a year and 6 months ago so he could jump into real contention, right? Didn't happen. He ended up gassing out in that fight after nearly finding a finish in the first 2 rounds. But he's come back. He sent Jack Hermansson to the absolute shadow realm in one of the KOs of the year. He beat Roman Kopylov with quality and actually has a really good matchup coming up, I think against Damian Pinas, if I'm not mistaken. No, Gautier. He's against Tabo Gautier, sorry. And then he beat Bruno Ferreira in a revenge fight where he won by KO in the first round, and he made a really big adjustment. He said, look, I'm going to sit down on one of these punches and let's see what happens. And, well, he KO'd him bad. So, yeah, man, when Gregory Rodrigues hits you clean, you're going to sleep at 185. You're going to sleep. I mean, I just love Gregory Rodrigues' fighting style. He is so kill or be killed. He's taking on Fluffy, man, who, yes, he can drown you in the deep waters and find late-stage finishes. But I'm so worried for Fluffy in that first 2 rounds, man. This one's a tricky one because some part of me thinks, man, is Fluffy going to cannoneer Rodrigues? I want to say no, because I think that Gregory Rodrigues should have learned from the cannoneer fight that, look, man, he's going to gas out, right? He knows it. There's no way he's going to go 5 rounds with Fluffy unless he just damages Fluffy to the point where he's just, a cracked egg, for lack of a better way to describe it, right? He has nothing left, okay? The yolk's all gone by the time the 5th round comes, which isn't likely. I don't think that Fluffy's going to quit on himself unless Gregory goes to the body. And I get that's like a trendy narrative right now, right? Like, oh, Fluffy can't take a punch to the body. I think that Gregory Rodrigues has got to know that was the mistake he made against Cannonier. In all of the headhunting, chasing a finish, he did not invest in the body at all. So then Cannonier wasn't worn out really at all, because Cannonier, obviously the killer gorilla, he can take a punch with the best of them. This one, I just really want Robocop to win, man. I've been a Robocop fan for a minute. This fight should be a barn burner. Really, again, this fight's, it's going to be must watch, man. I just think that Gregory's going to get Fluffy out of there in the first 2 rounds. I think the Robocop hype is real, and I think we're going to get to see finally Robocop get a shot into the top 5. Top 5. He might take the 5th spot, right? But into the top 5. At the beginning of next year, man. Look, he's not getting any younger, but bro, we need these top guys to fight Robocop. Robocop is awesome. So yeah, man, we're all rooting for Robocop victory. Anthony Fluffy Hernandez is a good fighter, but I just think that Gregory, with the experience from the Cannonier fight, I think he's gonna understand he needs to invest in the body as well as the head, and he needs to sit down in his punches and win.